I'm going to try to do this a little bit archaically. And I haven't done it this way a long time. We'll see if this works out. Because I do want to do some painting this morning. So apparently the internet is not, something happened with the internet where I'm not getting enough juice to be able to run it through the computer. Which means we need to go to old school phone method here. So haven't done it in a long time this way. So we'll see if this works out okay. But I did want to do some painting this morning. So anyhow, we wanted to start working on the Wallachians, and I wanted to go over some of the stuff that I picked up some interesting stuff over the weekend. Did a little pit stop, and wanted to go over that stuff as well. So unfortunately, we're going to be limited to 720p and one monitor. So, and it looks backwards to me, so hopefully it's not backwards. I haven't done it this way in many, many months. So anyhow, so first thing, I went on a road trip yesterday, and on my way back through Ocala, I picked up at this hobby store called, I think it's Bearded Brown Coats or something like that. I think that's the name of it. I restocked on some of this Army Painter tops. They actually had a really good selection of things. I was surprised. I was expecting to find this because Army Painter is relatively easy to find in different places, but my local place doesn't have these, and I literally have like 2 bushes left, so I like to intermix these somehow. Looking for base materials that we're going to be using with the Wallachian Army. And also they carried this particular line called Gamer's Grass. And this is stuff I'd never seen before in this size. I use one of them quite a bit, one of the colors. But this stuff is super, I don't know, it's just in weird, different size patches. So instead of just being the little round tufts like this, there's some oblong type patches. So I figured that couldn't do any harm. And then this is, I guess this one's called Autumn, and this one's Dark Moss. So this is kind of an interesting type color. So these will be some colors that we can mix in with the basing of this army, along with the other ones that I have. So I stopped by and got that, and well, I just wanted to see what they had, and they just happened to have something I could use. If you're doing historical gaming, sometimes it's really hard to find things at some of these stores because they're all geared for Games Workshop and the like. So, anyhow, what else is new? So I wanted to start on this Wallachian project and trying to figure out what color schemes I'm going to use. So one of the books that I really wanted to get my hands on was the Warhammer Ancient Battles Vlad the Impaler. Now, I don't play Warhammer's Ancient Battles, but there are a fair amount of eye candy that can be useful for it. And I happened to come up with the book is available. It's not in print anymore, and if it is available on eBay or something like that, I think I've seen it come up as or Amazon or something like that, some absurd amount, like $250 or something like that. So lo and behold, some person decided to upload an illegal copy on the internet, so I've got one, which I don't really approve of people doing that. I'm willing to pay the price of the book, but if it's out of print and you need the information, then you're out of luck. So let's see if I can flip this over here. Get this over to the computer. The computer's working, but the internet is just It's like dial-up speeds. Let's see if I flip this around. There we go. And let's flip this around. All right, here we go. And no, I can't send this to anybody, so you'll have to go on the internet and get it yourself. That's a little too far. I don't really approve of people going and putting on the internet and doing stuff like that. But, well, let me see if I can get this thing to behave. And I'll show you some of the stuff that's on here. Why won't this hold in place? All right, bear with me. Microphone's on, doesn't do any good. Vlad the Impaler. Okay. So in here, these are really, I really enjoy these books a lot because it really breaks down subjects that are really difficult and kind of easy to understand things. And it's not that it's that difficult, it's just that it gets convoluted. So I'm going to have to look through the monitor, not look at the monitor, not through the phone. There we go. Little map of the area that we're talking about. There he is, Big Vlad. And of course this has got really nice, oh, there it is, the Forest of the Impaled. Welcome to Wallachia, like people being poked. We've got some of those to do. Here's his little castle in this area. I've got that little castle to do. Is it fair representation? Let's see. Yeah, it's okay. That'll come up later. So the main thing I wanted to get is here to the bottom where you've got the color plates, okay? And this is all nice stuff to read in the background, but really looking at the color plates to see what inspiration other people decided to paint these figures as. I haven't done any of this stuff, so this is normally things that I do. Good morning, Dirk. Going to the old school method here of having to do this without the computer since the internet decided to take a dump. I heard there were some issues in our neighborhood with the internet, but I was out of town for most of the day yesterday, so I didn't really realize that was going to impact today's filming. All right, let's get to the color plates here. See what kind of inspiration. Now, I take these things with a grain of salt because a lot of this is just somebody's interpretation, so I may not necessarily agree with it, and that's fine, but it does give me ideas for what it could possibly look at. Okay. Vlad Tepes and his retinue. Three views of Vlad showing different shield designs and color schemes. Okay. Well, mine's not going to have full plate armor because the figure doesn't. And I don't know that he had it, at least in that. I've read a book on him recently, and it definitely talked about him using a bow for sure. And the figure that I've got has a bow. And of course, he's got the little typical hat there that they wear. And see, here's some heavy infantry. I'm mostly interested in the light infantry and see what they did with it. I know they're going to be pretty drab colors. Okay, it's Turks. Some similar looking Turks to some of my Turks. Okay, this got heavy cavalry. Come on, show me some little bowmen wearing, if they have them here. And I've bought some of these books just for the color plates, just for inspiration. Okay, here's some cavalry. Wallachian cavalry, some light cavalry there. I may start with the light cavalry first. Tatars and Ottoman employ, ambushed by Transylvanian handgunners and Hungarian infantry. Okay, well, that doesn't really apply to what we've got on here. Show me some light cavalry. Or somebody else's inspiration. Ah, the old Ottoman Turks. Delices. Got some of those troops to do for my Turks as well. Big old bronze guns. Not big enough. It's never big enough. Use a bigger gun. Okay, peasants out of Belgrade. Janos Hunyadi. Yeah, it's got Hungarians in this book as well. Too late for inspiration of the Hungarians. I've got mine painted. More Turks. Again, these are lots of guys painted, and a lot of these guys don't even have any patterns on their robes. And this is what I said, if I painted 28 millimeter, they're going to have so much more detail than my 15s do. And I wouldn't paint my 15s this drab. I guess you're going to have to cut corners, or you're never going to get 300 figures painted 28 millimeter, but these are Albanians and Vlach allies. Okay, so it looks like these light horse guys are very rustic looking. Okay, and there's the color plates. All right, so nothing inspirational. Okay. All right, let's flip this thing around. I just always like to do that, just to make sure that, you don't want to like finish painting an army, spend 200 hours on it, and then see something that's like, man, if I would have known that information, I would have painted my figures in differently. And I've gone through this as well. Hopefully this is in reverse. It is on my screen, so I don't think that was an issue with the phone. I don't remember. It's been so many. Well, it hasn't been that many months, but I forget things. But in here, there wasn't anything really inspirational in here to give me an idea. So let's paint some light horse. Okay, let's paint some light horse, some Wallachian light horse, and let's get to it. And one thing I did this morning, which of course is switch this thing. Oh, I didn't put a paper on it yet, but we needed to switch this stuff out. Cleaned it, put some antibacterial soap on there, because there is a little bit of mold that sometimes appears there. I'm not worried about health issues, just don't want to have a bunch of mold on my paint. Some people freak out about a little bit of mold. I don't think I'm going to die from that. Just a guess. All right. Let's get one of my trusty cards. I only have a million of these things. Hotel key cards. They have so many uses. Okay, there's 6 light horse in this army. Well, 6 figures. So we're going to paint those guys up first, I think. Now, most of them have shields. I'm not going to worry about what's on the shield at this point. I'm just going to probably paint all 6 horses and go from there. I know some people detest painting horses. I actually like it. probably because I'm kind of new to painting horses. Well, since 2005. I guess that was a while ago. Yeah. None of my wargaming before DBA involved painting any horses. So, where's Mr. White? Should be up here. That's the old Mr. White. There we go. Which I guess I should just throw it away or use it. Okay, put those in the center so we can access them from all sides. Those are definitely the ones that we're going to use all the time. Now, unfortunately, we're back to, if you got any comments, I've got to bump the screen and look at it, but oh well. It's either that or I don't film, so maybe I'll provide some kind of entertainment for you this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending where you are. Oh, we don't need the mouse. Okay, so what horses do we have to do here, light horse wise? Ah, yes, a bitching chair. Okay, here's the 6 horses that we have. Okay, so this is a unique pose. These are all SX figures. This is a unique pose. These two guys overhand are the same pose, at least the same pose for the rider figure. And then these two are the same, and this guy's kind of like, you know, he's higher up the food chain because he's got a feather here. So these poses look almost the same, irrespective of shields. Like for instance, these are the same pose, they just have a different shield on them. I don't know why they decided to do that, but and they have javelin in their hand, but they're also armed with bows as well. So I believe these are actually considered in DBMM light horse superior. So I didn't know that that these horsemen were of that high quality. So we're going to grab one of these guys, since there's 2 of them. Do they have different shields? They have the same shield. They have the same shield. We're going to paint these 2 guys first. Why? I don't know. It sounds good. That's how I make my decisions. On the whim. You know, the first DBA army I ever did was my feudal Spanish. I don't know if you'll come across these. Well, here's one of them. Okay. When I glued the horses down, I would pre-plan what figure it was. So I put on here, I believe gray is the color the horse was going to be. And then it has an R, so it was mainly a red-based figure. And I did that with all of them. And somewhere on here is also marked what position they were in the stand. If you do all that stuff ahead of time, that's all fine and dandy, but you're consuming a lot of time trying to pre-plan every single thing. So I just kind of wing it a little more so that I don't burn hours upon hours of trying to plan how I'm going to paint an army. You know, so if there's the same pose of something, I try painting them at the same time or consecutively, so that I do not paint them the same. Like if I'm going to paint this guy and these 2 are the same pose, I don't want to paint them both with the same color brown horse, because you know it's going to look awkward. At least to me while I'm assembling, and maybe to the untrained eye, or maybe someone who hasn't been looking at the figure that often. And they are a one-piece casting, so that's why the horse is exactly the same pose. Which I don't mind a one-piece casting, but it's just something you got to keep in mind that you may not want them sitting right next to each other. So let's grab good old chocolate brown for this guy, and make a chocolate brown colored horse. And the other guy's probably going to be, I don't know, gray, something like that. I don't remember what color Dracula's horse is in the book, so we'll have to wait on that. He's going to be like the last figure done anyway, so I like working my way up to the earning painting the general. Depriving myself of pleasure. Everybody wants to paint those special guys first. I've only done that on one army. I've only painted the really cool figures first, and that was in my Armenian army. It was the first rustic color army I did, and I had a lot of trouble getting them off the ground and getting started. So I went ahead and did the cataphracts first, instead of all light horse and the skirmishers and the auxilia. But I needed to do that to get myself motivated to get up in there and get them finished. I was having a lot of lift-off problems, so I don't have a paper towel. Okay. Yep. I think somebody asked me maybe it was on Facebook or something like that. Hey, when are you painting again? I said, oh, Sunday we'll have a big paint. Seems like every time you announce something, you make a big production of when it's going to be, always, I'm not going to say fate, but you back yourself into a corner. Like the internet didn't work this morning. So I'm like, screw it. I'm still going to paint, even if it's this crappy quality. So I apologize if it's not our normal quality, but the internet is working. It's just, it's at dial-up speeds. It can't, I've tried 3 times to try this video this morning, and I even woke up extra early, because I went to sleep extra early, and got punished by it not working. Well, okay, so let's get some black and the color here. This is why I'm not a fan of things that are technology based. I mean, unless I have a stroke or get Parkinson's overnight or something like that, nothing I want. I'm still going to be able to paint with with the normal method that I use every day. You don't need to be blowing around. I see you over there. But your internet can be working fine one day and the next day it doesn't work and you don't know why. So I'm not a big fan of technologies. Technology is great when it works. When it doesn't work, sometimes I wish it wasn't even invented, because then you don't have to count on it. But well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do any gaming tomorrow. We'll just see how it is. So I had an issue with good old Google that's taken me over a year to get resolved. My channel has been monetized for about a year, and you get a little bit of cash sent to you after Google takes their cut through the advertising that you may or may not bump through. Doesn't matter. I don't watch other people's advertising too. I click out of it, but just part of the advertising thing. And I've been unable to access it for over a year. And it was because Google is really weird. Like if you have I don't know if you guys know this, but if you have a commercial account, and you have any kind of problems with this, there's this program called AdSense, which is what they use to, all of those monies go through there. And it's a real pain in the ass, because it's something like, if you generate whatever amount of money a month, say $10 or something like that, by the time you get it, or you're allowed to get it, it's like 3 months later. So I know one person that supposedly does this for a living, but I can't imagine them having a very good living because of the little payout, and also how long it takes for your payments to get to you. But regardless, it's luckily my livelihood doesn't depend on this at all. don't really count on it. It's just a way to get more funds and put it back in the hobby and buy cool shit for you guys to see and so forth. But anyhow, about a year, I haven't been able, it's basically been in this account where I had no access to it because there was a problem with, you'd click on there and say, oh, there's a problem with your payments account. And it wouldn't tell you what it is that you needed to do. So you just, I mean, it's taken a year to through it, and there's no one to call, there's no one to email. If you have a question, you have to ask it through some forum, which hopefully somebody answers. It's really archaic and, you know, not user friendly at all, but it took me a year to get it resolved. I got it resolved a couple days ago. And, you know, not that I'm not doing this for the money. So, I mean, if I never got a payout from YouTube, it wouldn't matter to me. I do this for the fact that I could be sharing what I'm doing and it keeps me on track so I can complete things. If I'm not filming this, then I could just be like, hey, let me go check this one website out, and the next 40 minutes I'm not painting. You know, so I'm doing it for that reason. But it's very frustrating when you know, you are sitting on money and it's not doing anybody any good. And you're constantly getting these emails, hey, you need to fix your account. Well, you need to tell me what I need to do. So in a nutshell, I needed to send them a copy of my driver's license and to verify that I was who I was, even though I had already given them my social security and all that. I don't know, just a bunch of hogwash, but hopefully it's resolved and don't have to go back into that. But that's another example of why I don't like technology, because, you know, there's no one to ask, nobody gives you the right answer, and it's just too frustrating. I don't really tolerate frustration very well in this hobby. You know, I sit down and I may paint a project that takes me 300-400 hours to do, but, you know, I don't get frustrated. It's just, you just chug along, you know. But yeah, Google is really bad about that. AdSense is really bad. You got a question, you're screwed. You pretty much, there's no one you can contact directly, or, you know, I don't have access to those people. So, but it got resolved supposedly. So that's just one of those things that you know, you don't know how they work until you're until you have to know. So. But I can't imagine having to rely on that to make a living, you know, because it's something like, you know, however much you generate in a month, but it gets paid, but it doesn't end on the month. It's like on the 15th, and then it'll show up in your account a month later, but then you can't access it until like within the 30. It's just complicated, and it just complicates stuff too much. So, and I'm sure it's for tax reasons or whatever, but anyhow, yeah, I don't rely on that. It is what it is, so. And the internet had gotten really reliable where I hadn't had a disconnect thing in like 3 weeks, and then, you know, it just doesn't have enough oomph to, I heard that there was a problem in the neighborhood. So I guess it's true. Maybe it'll get resolved tomorrow. I don't know. Not on a Sunday. They're not going to do anything about it that Sunday. Yeah, it's like dial up type speed. And then along with that same issue, because it was Google related, my damn video editor that I've actually been a member of the same one for 5 years. I guess it'd be cheaper for me to just buy one, but I like the one that I use. It's very easy to use, and it's only $25 a year or something like that. Anyways, it was up for renewal at the same time that I was having the issue with Google, so it wouldn't let me renew. So I didn't have an editor. Well, I could use the free version, but then I have a watermark, and it was limited to 720. So that's why I didn't film the the games last Monday. Not that you guys missed anything like really cool, but yeah, I wasn't going to film them, and then could only get 720. So I didn't want to film them also, hold on to them for who knows how long until that issue got resolved. But you know, you go on there and I'll say, hey, there's a problem with your Google account, and instead of you being able to say, well, what's wrong with it? Well, we need you to send your driver's license, a copy of your driver's license and information to verify who you are. It doesn't say that. You had to go through like pull down menu upon pull down menu. It literally took me 2 weeks to get it resolved, just doing a little bit at a time. So, you know, you don't want to spend 6 hours trying to figure it out and end up breaking your computer. But not the most user-friendly interface. It'd give you an error code. That's what it was. It was my thing was for renewal. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy it again. I guess the auto renewal didn't work. And then I would get some weird error code. And then I'd go on the internet saying, you know, almost like it couldn't process my payment. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll try it through PayPal. No, the PayPal didn't work. All right, let's try it through a credit card. That didn't work either. And then when it did work, it had double charged me for multiple versions of the same renewal account. It was just a mess. It all got resolved, but it's just frustrating. Don't like this technology when it doesn't work. Like I said, I wouldn't want to rely on this for my livelihood. It's too finicky. So if we game tomorrow, we'll film it. They'll be gaming. I just don't know if I can make it. I'm getting ready to go on a trip for about a week out of the country. So hopefully they let me back in. And so the following week, there won't be any painting. I'll be out until December, which sounds a really long ways away, but we're leaving right after Thanksgiving. So that's the plan as of right now. This is the busiest time of the year, so November is like the busiest month for me. It's with other traveling and stuff. Almost always traveling in November. And almost always traveling between Christmas and New Year's. Almost always. I can't remember the last time we stayed home during that time. So I know when we used to go to Historicon, people would complain about they wouldn't go to Historicon because they had too many things to do in the summer. And the summer for me is kind of a dead time. There's not stuff I have to do. That might have to change in the future, but I don't want to go anywhere when it's hot. I'll stay indoors. But in the wintertime, Yeah. Yesterday I was outside almost all day long, went to a car show, and it was mid 70s, and it was very cool because there was like a 15 to 20 knot wind the whole time. So if you've heard me complain how if you sit outside here in Florida any amount of time, even with it not being cold, you pick up the smell like of, and I think it's humidity and pollen, and all my clothes still smell clean when I was done yesterday. So I guess it's the wind, and we don't have hardly any wind here in Florida, unfortunately. So at least in the part of Florida where I am at, in the center part, it's pretty still. So that certainly made it pleasant. All right, let's lighten this up just a tiny little bit more for some highlights, and then we can move on to the other horse. Now, some of these guys had kind of bright clothing whenever possible. I believe that's what it said in the Ian Heath's book. So we're probably going to give him a bright colored jacket. Nothing crazy like purple or anything like that, but maybe blue or something. Okay, I don't worry about whether the horse is going to have socks or anything at this time. I can make that can be one of the last things I do. I don't like painting the hooves and the socks on a horse because they get really close to the part where you're rotating this with your finger. And you don't want to spend a lot of time painting all these things on the periphery and then end up scuffing them up inadvertently. So I try not to do them at this point. All right, we've got to make the other guy gray. Let's get us a gray horse color. I know I could just make black and white there, but it's more fun to just have another color here. I got 300 freaking colors. I might as well use them before they go bad. Well, I did go back to drinking coffee a little bit. Like for a road trip, I picked one up on the way back and drank only half of it, so I'd have half of it for this morning, but I still don't care for the taste of it. But I always drank it for the octane. Dracula Lives. Yes, where is he? Where is that little blood-sucking bastard? There he is. This is the guy that will end up being him. With his big old Ron Jeremy type mustache. Maybe that was his inspiration for that mustache. You wanted to be an impaler. Oh man, not that I've seen any of his stuff, but I certainly know who he is. All right. If I'm going to watch pornography, it's not because, hey, there's this one dude I like that's in it. No. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reread that book or have that book reread to me when I'm painting here shortly, probably. I'm working on Dan Jones' latest book. I can never remember what the hell it's called. It just came out last month or this month, actually. It's in typical Dan Jones fashion. It's very good. So, and I hope he continues to put out more books, and I hope he continues to. I hope he continues to narrate his own books because that one Plantagenet book, the guy who narrated it is just he sucks. I'm sorry. He just absolutely did. He didn't want to be there, and I didn't want him to be there. But Dan does a really good job with his narrating his own books. So Vlad model looks cool. Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if that's meant who it's meant to be, but he definitely has that whole. He's got all the parts. He's got a bow on him. He's got the little his little Wallachian type hat, um, similar to this one, but a little different. Um, Upturned edges. Yeah, we'll see how he does. This is a very light army, so we'll see how he does. I'm enjoying painting these armies that are unusual or wimpier, so to speak. Um, a lot. And these armies that have very few figures on the stands, have a lot of skirmishers, whether they're light horse or foot skirmishers, they paint up a lot quicker because you're painting a lot less figures. And, you know, this army in particular is something that works with enemy figures armies that I already have as their enemy. So it's not like I'm just only taking the cop out because they're easier to paint, but it is helpful that that's the case. So, and we'll be doing the Knight General as well. I know I could use the same figure as the Knight or whatever, but I'm not going to. I have particular Moldavian figures that we'll use for that. And Moldavians can have the Polish allies, so we'll probably do some Polish troops as well. Some later Polish troops. Got lots of later Polish figures to do. So I know there's one guy in particular that is dying for me to do Polish figures. So, you know, honestly, I want to do all the armies. So it's not like, well, I don't like those guys. You know, I want to do them all. I'm not going to get to, but. But I do like doing these lighter armies. Let's thin this down a little bit. I don't know how I can drink this coffee this strong and still yawn. This has always been the case. I guess no complaints about this not being in this same quality. Yeah, we're going through mobile connection, so it's going to limit me to 720, but it's either that or no video today, folks. Internet just wanted to take a dump. The good news is it's screwing everybody in the neighborhood too. It's not just me. I have a feeling I'm the only person that has a YouTube channel in this neighborhood, though. I mean, I don't think that's much of a stretch. You know, there are about 100 houses. I don't know. Maybe there's not even 100 houses, but it's all right. We're still going to get some painting done today. This took me a little bit of time to figure out how to do it. ago. I've done it hundreds of times going live. You stop doing it for a little while and then you just kind of forget how to do it that way. Live through the phone, I should say. Horsehair is something I don't do until the very end, because again, it's on the periphery of the figure and I'm going to scuff it up turning this figure around on this base. I don't want to have to fix something that I've already done and haven't even played with the figures yet. I mean, they haven't even gone on the battlefield and been scuffed up by, by them being played with. I don't want to fix things. Just easier just to do it right the first time. Really have to go much lighter than that. I'm going to put some spots back here. Just subtle, nothing crazy. All right. Where to next? Well, we know they're going to have javelins. Let's go ahead and get that over with, paint them. Paint what you know. If you can't decide what you're going to do, well, it's obvious we're going to have the javelins in a wood color. Paint them. Don't just spend hours and hours and hours cogitating about how you're going to paint something. These are light horse models, Mike. And good morning to you, by the way. Yeah, these are part of the light horse models. The cavalry models are Vlad and his two accomplices, and which are actually, these guys are minifigs figures. They're a little bit dressier. You can tell, see, I still miss some spots priming it. It's okay. Go back and fix those little bits. I got most of them anyways. Yeah, so one of these guys is gonna hold up a banner, and the other one's guy's just gonna put that lance through somebody. Talked about a dragon banner a lot in the book, even though if you look at the Moldavian, not Moldavian, the Wallachian symbol, it's not that. So probably gonna do some kind of a dragon flag or whatever. I put it on his shield, but he doesn't have a shield and doesn't really need it. I mean, the guy's carrying all kinds of stuff as it is. I mean, he's carrying a sword, he's carrying a bow with the quiver. He doesn't need a shield as well. So, yeah, looking forward to painting this guy, but I gotta earn him. He's last, and he's got some details that other figures don't have. For instance, he's got, I don't know if you can see that. There's some riveting here on that strap that goes on the horse that none of the other figures have. That's kind of nice. And he has some fine detailing on him. The parts of the hat that's upturned have some detail on it. I'm pretty sure it has some form of sheepskin or something like that. You know, it gets cold in his part of the world, so. Unlike here. Yeah, they are nice looking models, but they're all going to paint up well. And nobody's going to look at these, you know, nobody would give these guys a second look. And they're actually on Essex horses, so even though this figure and this one are the same exact figure, I bent this guy's arm a little different. I think that was kind of unintentional, but and I put him on a different horse. So, you know, adding those little varieties helps, you know, even if the rider is in the same position, just having a little bit of variety helps. So, okay, let's get out the beige brown here. You know what? I'm going to go lighter than that because this is a color I can totally do a horse in this color. And I don't like using a javelin I could do a horse color in just so they pop a little bit. No, not green ochre. Where's that buff color? Dark sand will work. Mike B, remind me where you are again? You're across the pond, I believe, aren't you? Most of my viewers are, so that's the guess to take. Across the pond or even a larger body of water. That's one of those sayings I like, across the pond. There's a couple of them that I've commandeered that have come from the UK that I particularly like. And I much prefer to finish painting one javelin and then go to the other one than painting the same base color on both and then going back and forth. I'm just not a fan of that. I know most people are, but I'm personally not a fan of it. I like to finish what I start before I go on to something else. All right. Do the same with the other one. We leave the tip to paint that. And in typical fashion, I don't hear of anybody making this army. And as soon as I start working on it, all of a sudden, I see multiple people are building the same army, and then they're coming out with new figures for them, all kinds of nonsense. Now, it's nobody that I would encounter and play with, so you guys can make it too. It's not a big deal, but it's just funny how that works. I did a army poll. I guess it's been about 6 months or so. I don't know if they did it on through Facebook also, but I know they did it through Fanaticus on a list on what armies you have. And supposedly, between all the people that responded, they had every single army covered. Now, I find it hard to believe that somebody would actually have a Toltec army, considering they don't make figures for Toltecs. But, maybe they just use Aztec figures for them or something like that. But supposedly every army was accounted for. Somebody had it. And I think the intent was to have the actual figures for them, not they've morphed them and you can make them work. Because, hell, we could play any army that way, but you actually have the correct figures for the army. And everything was accounted for. Even something, armies I've never seen in my life. I've never seen anybody show up with Romanian Franks, for instance. There's lots of armies I've never seen anybody show up to play with in a face-to-face game. Okay, that's done for both of these figures. Might as well do the metal tips. Might as well get that over with. It's not like I want to change my mind about what color those are going to be. It's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, that hobby store I popped into had a fair. I mean, they had a really good selection as far as things go. Because, in this day and age, there's not anybody has everything. And I say hobby store, a game shop. There's all a bunch of, board games and comic books and gaming supplies for, Warhammer kind of stuff. But I use Warhammer stuff. I was not expecting to see Gamer's Grass. I discovered that at Historicon 2018 and saw that it was made in Portugal. I was surprised that they made anything other than wine there and cork. But yeah, that Gamer's Grass, that's good stuff. Uh-oh. Okay. All your ancients and all the armies in factor 28 millimeter. I was a diehard metal only collector, but over COVID, I've been replacing my metals with plastics. So much easier to carry. Yeah, there's advantages to plastic. I have so much in white metal that, yeah, I've said it before. If I was to do 28 millimeter, which I'm not going to because it would just take me 12 hours a figure. I know me. That's exactly what it would turn into. I'd base them individually so I could put them on a Sabo stand. I could play skirmish games or a DBX type game as well. Could do double duty. You can't do this the same way because the stands would be so small the figures would fall over. But you just finished Warlord Plastic Caesarean Romans. Okay. What's the name of the rules that they make? SPQR? I can't keep all those rules together. SPQR, and I think that's the Warlord Games one. Yeah, it's good I'm not a fan of plastics, but it's good that there's plastics for people that are. The more options you have, the consumer wins. People should have choices. Plastics seem to take the paint better and chip less. Really? I'd be afraid of them flexing and the paint coming off, but I haven't painted, so I can't say. I painted plastic figures when I was doing 1/35th scale stuff back in the late 80s, early 90s. I'll be right back. I need to get a refill of some tea. Okay. Oh, more people showed up because I left. Is that a good sign? You never know. You never know. All right. So we got that out of the way. Let's paint these guys up like we were talking about. We're gonna make this guy with a blue coat. Yeah, let's do that. What's the worst thing that can happen? I don't like how it turns out and I repaint it. That hasn't happened that many times. What manner of place is this? Yeah, this is the old school. Back doing it on mobile. Yeah, internet decided to not work for anybody in the neighborhood. I mean, it works. It's just on dial-up speed, so you can't get. I tried it 3 or 4 times this morning. Couldn't get it to work. I'm like, well, we either don't paint or we just go back to doing it old school. So. What manner of place is this? This is the painting lodge. I'd say the man cave, but this isn't very cave-ish. All right. I think this should work. You know what? I may need more. No, you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's bring something in out of retirement. I do need to use these from time to time. Played with my biblicals yet? I have. I have. As a matter of fact, they played on Monday, and I went 1 and 2 with them. I don't know. That's a great army. I don't know why I'm not doing that well with it, but I think they were 6 and 4, and 1 and 2 puts them at 7 and 6, I guess. I'm gonna pull out Ultramarines blue. Whoa! And this thing's been in hiding a long time. I'm gonna open this thing up. It's gonna smell like Margaret Thatcher. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing now, but that's about how old this thing is. Actually, this stuff smells pretty good. Yeah, it's inert smelling. Remember Howard Hughes? Do you guys have any of those Howard Hughes paints? I thought they were great paints, but man, they just didn't. That bottle just didn't. They didn't last a while. They'd dry out. Actually, really similar to the kind of a creamy consistency with this paint. But I got 3/4 of a bottle of this stuff, so. I had the wood color that I had in this. I think it finally died. I used it for all my World War II, for all the rifles. I really, really liked it. I don't think it was called wood, whatever it was. Rat fur, vermin fur, or something like that. You know, at the time that I got these paints, there was poly-S and acrylic. There was only poly-S in this. And these have a much better consistency than poly-S. Much better. And I know that I heard a long time ago that the same manufacturer that made these is the one that currently makes Cook the Arms. But what I don't know is, are the foundry paints the same? You know, those foundry 3-point? What's the consistency of those foundry paints? Because I've been tempted to get some. I think they sell them at Historicon. One of the vendors, is it Brigade Games? Somebody like that sells them. Oh, I gotta watch out. Does this guy have sleeves? No, it looks like it's all one. Doesn't look like it's a vest. Looks like the sleeves go all the way to the end. Oh well, we'll find out when we finish painting it, right? Yeah, I don't know anything about the foundry paints. If they're this kind of consistency, I'll definitely pick some of them up because I'm not a big fan of these tip-top bottles because this little tab on them breaks off. That's the first thing to go. And then the next thing to go is the hinge, so to speak. And then it doesn't seem to make a longevity issue of the paint. The paint still lasts a long time, but this is a rubber top with a rubbery bottom. Because even the new ones, where's one? This, okay? This this top is still that type of rubbery, but the bottom, it gives a little bit, but it's less squishy. And the fact that it's squishy basically means that you get a good seal. But they're not bad. I mean, this is I don't mind these. I think this top is better than this top, but overall, I think this container is better. But is there a perfect thing? Nah, they all have their deficiencies, one way or another. I'd buy some Cote d'Armes. You should. You're in a place where they make them. I can't mail order them, without the colors being unseen. They're nice, but they dry out. High pigment. You love the foundry paints and they come in the triads. I would consider them on the thicker side. Okay. Well, the thicker's okay with me. I think these are thick, but I thin everything down. You guys have seen. I have to. I don't know why I do. I just always have. I know I'm going to apply so many different layers of them that afraid the correct terminology? I don't know. I don't want to cover up any of the detail. And I can't say that I've painted anything in 15 millimeter where I'm like, man, I wish I hadn't put so many coats because now it's too thick and I can't see. So I guess that part of it's worked. Let's get a more precise, let's get a more precise brush for what we're about to do. Or one with a more precise tip. Yeah, and my paint's pretty transparent, so I've seen that triad painting. And I'm actually okay with it being not transparent. I've seen other people do it with the three colors. It's just not the faces. The faces, I'm not a fan of those meat cutting charts. Somebody said called that on the miniatures page 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that. These faces that look like meat cutting charts. And yeah, that's what it is. The face needs more than three shades, in my opinion. Especially if you're doing 28 millimeter or something like that. Again, I don't mind doing faces. It brings the figure to life. So, but I would have picked up some foundry paints if there's a place I could just walk up and see them. Because there's nothing like, I mean, unless you're rebuying colors, there's nothing like walking up, flipping them upside down and go, I could use a color that looks like this, to kind of continue to grow. I mean, you can mix everything, but that's the real savings is you can just kind of grab a color as a base and work from there. The foundry paints dry out. I wonder why. I wonder why that is. The only paints that I've had that I found that dried out really fast was Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes were horrible about that. Horrible. And they were a hard plastic container with a metal old school. No, their lid was plastic. I don't know. It was too hard. There's definitely if the container is made out of material like this, hard plastic on hard plastic, you just don't get that good of a seal. Now this doesn't matter a whole lot, and there's also very little amount of what's the word I'm thinking of? Thread on here, so it's an easy to get it right in the right place. But if you have a lot of thread, you get a little bit of paint in there and it just won't seal right. The tester stuff is notoriously bad. The Howard Hughes were, I thought, nice paints, but they almost were like makeup. Not that I would know anything about makeup, thankfully, but they were almost, well, they were almost like this. They were very similar to this. They would dry out and get to this kind of consistency, and then they just didn't seem like they were repairable. Those definitely were notorious drying paints. I didn't have that many. I had like 4 or 5 of them. When I was doing naval stuff, I had some kind of unique colors, but I ended up throwing them away. And, one thing is if your paint dries out after you've used half of it or 3/4 of the paint, okay, fine, it dries out, right? But when you've used it once and you come back 6 months later and you can't use it again, that's unacceptable. Especially when you're just opening it, grabbing some paint, putting it on here, closing it back up. It's not like you're leaving it open while we're doing our 5-hour painting session. Yeah, it's going to dry out. So, oh, nothing's as bad as those old Pactra paints. I don't know if you guys had those Pactra paints across the pond. Those were just god awful garbage, absolute garbage. A thick paint that was in a plastic container that had etchings on the inside. So instead of it being a smooth container on the inside, had like all these nooks and crannies where the paint would stick to it and you couldn't get it mixed right. And yeah, but they were only 60 cents a piece or however much they were. Yeah, they were garbage. Yeah, you got to have paint that lasts so that when you buy more paint, you expand your collection. If every time you go out and you buy, okay, here's these 6 colors, and they're like, I think I'll buy another butt all paint. So you buy one, now you got 7, right? But 2 dried out. So now you're down to, you're never going to get ahead. That's that's not a good that's not a good solution. Let's use this straight and see what we get. Now this is good stuff, man. This old school Games Workshop, this is good stuff. And I forget about it. I've got, I don't know, a dozen colors. Citadel. Damn it, it wasn't Games Workshop back then. Took a long time for me to stop calling things Citadel. And then I did. And then now when you're talking about the old ones, Citadel. Nobody changed the name of it. I like Citadel better than Games Workshop. Games Workshop just too vague. Too trying to cover everything. All right, let's get a little bit of white and highlight some of these spots on here on the jacket. Well, thanks for coming by and putting up with a shitty resolution. Thanks to being on a mobile connection, even though my phone can certainly handle it. As a matter of fact, my 5G speed is about the same as my high-speed internet when the high-speed internet is working. It's just not working this morning. But everybody else in the neighborhood's getting screwed too, so I'm not the only one. Okay, and maybe a little bit more white, a tiny little bit. The white and the black go a really long way. So just adding a tiny little bit will get you where you need to go. It's almost a perfect color for like blue jeans. Okay. Let's do a bow case. Put the blue away. Put away colors when I'm done with them. Otherwise, I'll be backed into a corner here. Mahogany brown. We'll use this as a base. Games Workshop started off making chessboards. Brian Ansell with Citadel. I don't remember the history of all that stuff. I see you didn't lose your hearing. Exhaust Fest. It wasn't that loud. And except for the one guy that did the pop, pop, pop. Yeah. It was very underwhelming, though, as far as not being there. But yeah. Had a car event that I went to in Lakeland yesterday, Subi Fest. My daughter was going to go with me, and she wasn't able to go at the last minute. And 115 did win. Yeah, it sounded like, and it was really interesting because, so I went to this car show. It's all Subaru based stuff, which is what I have. And it was really cool. Seeing everybody had different versions of the same car I had and what they did with them. And some were done well and some were like, man, what are you smoking? As with everything else. And but one of the events was this exhaust show. They try to see how loud you can get, and some of them were really loud, but it seemed like the low pitch stuff is what mattered as decibel wise. The high pitch stuff just didn't, even though it might have been louder, just didn't register. So one guy that won had this loud exhaust, and it did this pop, almost like a Western gunfire. That's what it sounded like. Sounded like somebody was just in the middle of the street, just pop, 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 pop. I mean, that's what it sounded like. So it was, yeah, he ended up winning. But you could be a winner there, but as soon as you leave and you start doing that stuff, the cops will be all over you like nobody's business. But it's supposed to be a rainy day. It ended up not being rainy. There was a little bit of a drizzle. I was under a tent at that time. I was going to go with a coworker. He kind of backed out at the last minute. And my daughter showed interest in going. So I'm like, well, if you really don't want to go, he's like, man, I can't make it anymore. I'm like, that's fine. I'll go with the daughter. And then she had an issue where she couldn't go at the last minute, and I was a little bummed out, but it worked out okay. Probably go next year too. And I filmed the video so my daughter could see it, and I'm like, well, why don't I just upload this and upload it on all the Subaru forums that I'm a member of on Facebook. And if you guys are DBA guys and go on the DBA, any of the DBA forums, whether it's Fanaticus or the D or what is it, two DBA pages on Facebook, more than 99% of the time, I'd say more than 99% of the time, we're all positive, happy, and civilized. We really are. Until you go to like a car forum or something like that that has a ton of members, you have no idea what negativity is. I'm kind of new to the whole, interest in car kind of thing. It's been around for a long time. I mean, they are just grade A dickheads that are just all the, it's just unbelievable. So I tend to, if I don't like something, I'll go somewhere else, right? Nobody's holding me where I've got to listen to somebody's opinion that I disagree with. I'll just go somewhere else, right? But man, these car forums are bad, you know? So, and it's just internet trolls, or it's just like other hobbies. Mitch and I have done some shooting sports. Same thing. Half the people there are cool. Half of those half are really cool. But half of the people completely are just people you don't want to see ever again. They're just so negative, and nothing's ever good enough for them. And it's like, dude, this should be your hobby, man. This should be like, if I'm not enjoying my hobby, I need to pick a different hobby. But I guess there's people like that all the time. I just don't like being negative about something that's, it's like we used to cruise a lot. You go on a cruise and people are in a bad mood on a cruise, man. If you're not having a good time on a cruise, you don't need to cruise again. You're doing it wrong. We're just throwing some random little dots and stuff on here, like there's some kind of detailing on here. Like this guy's mom stitched his bow case for him. We'll see when I'm done what you think I did. Because in the past, I'd be like, okay, let's see bow cases, see if I can get ideas. Man, a lot of it you just have to pull out of your where. The stuff doesn't exist that we need. All right, let's see how we did. Make this look kind of gypsy-ish. Yeah, I like that. Me happy long time. Okay. Excellent. The Essex figures, the thing is they're very bland looking. There's not a lot of detail on the clothing and stuff, but it doesn't mean you can't just add it on there. And just a little bit of it goes a long way. So, all right. I think I read somewhere these guys just kind of, oh, you know what I read? Didn't know this. And this guy doesn't have it, so it's accurate. Moldavians and Wallachians did not use spurs. So they use their knees or something like that. So I got to make sure none of these figures have spurs on them, and they do not. Looks like it. So, is this a long boot that he has? We're going to assume that it is. Let's get a light colored boot color. I think that'll work nicely with the blue there. We'll use this khaki. At least they spelled it right. The Viejo khaki is spelled Kanaki. I say khaki is even more flexible color than olive drab. This khakis can be all over the place. There's the car scene thing. There's just too many people that are negative, and you shouldn't. If you see something you like, be happy for the person. You know, don't be like, oh man, that guy's got something nicer than me. I'm gonna make his life miserable. Come on, man. I just don't see any reason in being that way. It was nice. It was like a 15 knot breeze the whole time, so it was maybe low 70s, 15 knot breeze. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I drove through some parts of Florida I've never driven before. And I've lived here my whole life, but there's some places I drove through that look like the haven't aged well. Let's put it that way. All right. We have to do something fun with his little bedroll. I was gonna say his cloth that he's sitting on there on the horse. But I had no intention of taking really any videos yesterday. I've just like thought about it. I'm like, my daughter would probably enjoy watching this, so hell with it. I'll just show it for her. And then at that point, I'm like, well, why don't I just like add some music and edit a little bit? That kind of editing with my editor is really user friendly. It's how it should be. You go on there and use something like what's that free one I was using? DaVinci Resolve. It's too freaking powerful, man. It's like I don't need to, be making commercials for NBC. I don't need something that powerful that's going to take 3 days to process on my computer before I can upload it. You know, just a little bit of finishing it up. It's nothing fancy. And I just figured, well, at that point, hell with it. I'll just upload it. What's another video? But sure enough, it was like moments for putting it up, and it was like I got 5 likes and a negative. There's always people putting. Car guys are just really negative about stuff. So I don't let that get you down. You get some kind of a downvote on some video you do, and you're wondering, well, what didn't he like? And you just realize that maybe he just wasn't there and disliked it. Damn it, I couldn't be there. Hey, I'm just. If you dislike something and don't put a comment, nobody knows what you dislike to make differently. Come and do the Woodward Dream Cruise. It's the largest car cruise fest in the world. I've never read about it. I've never heard about it. I'll have to look that up. They have a place up in Georgia called, is it Georgia or Tennessee, something like that? North Carolina, up there in the corner, called Tail of the Dragon. And it's like supposedly a one-way course there through the Smoky Mountains that's got some cool turns. And I think it's spaced out so there's nobody coming the other way. I'd like to do that. That'd be cool. We're gonna look this up. So Woodward Dream Cruise. Okay, I'll check that out. Woodward Dream Cruiser. Mine. I'm like, what ship is that on? They used to have a wargaming cruise, like a cruise ship, but I'm kind of a snob when it comes to cruise ships. I don't want to go on some rusty, dinky thing. You know what? I enjoy gaming, but cruising is better than gaming. I mean, much better than gaming. Like, it's not even close. I think this guy speaks of dark red. I think this guy needs a dark red saddlecloth. Saddlecloth, that's what it is. Saddlecloth. I'm not equestrian enough to remember what these terms are. Let's not get too bright. He is putting his ass on it. So I want to spend that lots of money on stuff that is not going to be visible to everybody. Detroit Metro. People fly cars to this event. Man. You got to have bulletproof glass if it's through Detroit, don't you? Ask a Subaru group about it. Okay. I wish they made better cars in this country. I really do. But man, the quality control just I'm a big Japanese car person, so and even them they slip sometimes too, but it's outside Detroit. Okay, so you're safe. Oh. Yeah, if you're into car stuff, man, YouTube is like a godsend. Because you could be like, well, I think I'll do this. Let me look into it. And then somebody's invariably made a video about it. And then you can realize this is outside my skill set. Or oh, I think I could try that, and, it's very empowering. We're doing basic stuff. We're not rebuilding engines and stuff like that. And of course, you got to take things with a grain of salt, but at least it gives you another perspective. You realize, oh, this entails A, B, C, and D. Oh, I can handle this. Or maybe I should let somebody who does this for a living take this on. But regardless, it's nice to have another perspective. And YouTube is wonderful for that. I've done several things that I wouldn't have even thought of if it hadn't been for that. So, and it could be the most useful video in the world, and there's always people, they'll always have negative downvotes, and be like, they're just people that are like that, I know one person that, I don't really game with them anymore, but they, thankfully, they, everything was a problem. It's like if you gave them $1 million, they'd bitch because all the bills weren't in the case facing the same direction. Just people like that. So there's people are around that way. And we may add some detail to this cloth, make it pop even more. When things turn out right, it's nice to add detail to things that don't exist, like wood grain on things that aren't wood grain. Like the little carriages and stuff like that, or the carriages, the cannons and stuff like that. That kind of stuff. Making things look like they're made of wood, even though obviously they're not because they're white metal. Woodward was one of the first roads built by Ford. First paved road. Send me the money. $1 million tax-free though, after taxes. I do. This guy would complain about everything. You know, if you're not having a good time while you're doing this, the rest of your life must suck. That's all I'm saying is, it must suck to be you. Because this should be all 100% happy. Even the games, even playing a game on the tabletop against one of your comrades. God, it sounds dirty just saying that, but you know what I mean. It should be a good experience. If you have the right kind of folks, you don't mind losing to them. Somebody's got to win. Can't be you all the time. If it was, it wouldn't be worth playing. Like, I already know I'm going to win. But sorry, there must be order. Yeah. I get it. Well, that's up to you. You do with it whatever you want. You can sort it however you want. And nothing larger than $20 bills. Otherwise, I can't spend it anywhere. There was a guy at one of our local shows that was that way as well. Everything was a problem. And I had another gamer friend of mine. Don't really game with them anymore. They're mostly into board games. They wanted to try DBA. And he got randomly assigned to be a co-commander on this complainer's side. And this friend of mine's first DBA experience was negative and never wanted to try the game again because this guy drove him away from the game. So, yeah. Anyhow, don't like folks like that. It's chess with toy soldiers. Some chess players need not play with toy soldiers. Yeah. I'd rather go to work than play chess. I don't have the mindset for chess. Okay, we need some strappies on this guy. And since the horse is dark, the straps need to be light. Let's use that buff or this dark sand. I think this should work fine. Let's do that. Well, I gotta repaint it. Don't misunderstand me. Counting money and sorting bills is not a problem for me. You want all quarters. You want old school Deutschmarks. Can't spend them anymore. Can you spend those anymore in Europe? I bet you can't. But you gotta convert them and you get screwed in the conversion. Some banker gets their cut again. Sorry, it's all in florins. The Fuggers florins. What's the name of that game that we used to play? Darklands. Old Microprose game, Darklands. It all takes place in the 15th century in Germany. Fuggers and florins. This guy looks like he's got some detail there on this strap. This harness, I think harness is probably the correct name. Yes, you can take Deutschmarks to a bank and get the same exchange rate in 1999. Still happens regularly as people find their parents' stash. I think I had at one point. One coin. I don't know how I got it. It's a good looking coin if I remember. It's got that German eagle on it. Kind of hard to not look good with a German eagle on it, unless it's got that crooked spider on it. You don't want one of those. No, put them in a museum, whatever. I'm sure they're probably worth a lot of money, but that's not what I meant. I meant the after 1945 ones. No crooked spiders. Whatever happened to that guy that had that basement in Germany and he had a Panther tank down there? I think he had an 88 too. It's a hell of a basement. I don't even know what a basement is living in Florida. And the guy's got a, Panzerkampfwagen 5 in there. A fuck gun. I have hobbies too. 1-to-1 scale. What? He probably got roasted. And hopefully they put that stuff in a museum. They didn't just like, well, we got to destroy it now. It was a garage, not a basement. Definitely not a one-car garage. We should make him defense minister. You should make him like head of intelligence or something like that. Hide and seek champion since 1946. Yeah. Who cares? As long as you don't have any ammo for it. Who cares? You don't want them shooting 75 millimeter HE at a schoolhouse or something like that. There's a couple of videos that have like working freaking guns like that. I suspect it's all powder. Well, I know it's probably all powder or whatever. There's a guy here in the U.S. I want to say it was in Washington State. He had a working Hellcat, M18 Hellcat. I believe it was a Hellcat, and he had it in working order. And I don't know if he made his own ammo because there's just blanks, and it exploded and killed somebody's kid or something like that. And I think it was somebody that was inside the vehicle. It wasn't like somebody was downrange and it got hit by powder or something like that. And I think it was, something like that. Any way you cut it. Some of those vehicles are, pretty old. They need to have, be inspected because, shit can go wrong. But yeah, I remember it was a Hellcat that he had. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And it happened like 3 or 4 years ago. And one of these things that, he wouldn't just drive it indiscriminately in his neighborhood. It was like for military shows or something like that. And he was reloading his own 76 millimeter guns, I guess. I guess you could reload the brass. I always wanted to go to one of those shows. Never did. If I remember correctly, they brought the Panther from a wrecker in Great Britain. Wow. There was a there was a video on the History Channel back when we had the History Channel many moons ago called I think it's called Tank Overhaul, and it was a really interesting show. I thought so because they would supposedly show you how they took a vehicle that was all beat up and they would refurbish it. And they did an Elephant. They did, I think, an M18. I think with Hellcat. They did something else, maybe a Sherman or something. There's only 3 or 4 episodes or something like that. But I thought it was really interesting how they went about that. The problem with a vehicle like that is, well, there's many problems with a vehicle like that. But the problem with a vehicle like that is I'm not claustrophobic, but even the roomiest of vehicles is claustrophobic. I mean, there's just stuff everywhere. And then on top of it, these guys had like a huge cannon that was recoiling and creating all kinds of dust. That's just really bad. That's just really bad conditions. I was watching an episode of, it was a Churchill. It was an episode on the Churchill, and it was the chieftain, who's a big guy. I mean, he's a skinny guy. He's skinnier than I am, but still, the guy's like 6'3" or 6'4". He's a huge guy. And Lindy Page, about a year ago, and they were both like talking about the Churchill, and they just couldn't get through the hatches. That's just some horrible conditions, but that's what people had to endure. Yeah, it was a good show. It was entertaining. Maybe not something you'd want to watch over. You watch it once, you're good, but at least something you don't see every day. They only have very few episodes of it. 3 or 4, something like that. I didn't think they got around to doing one of the T-34s that they salvaged out of the mud, some Pripyat marsh or something like that. They have those, but I don't think that there may even be a show on it, probably on YouTube, but not through that channel. Okay, Dirk. Good night. Thanks for stopping by, as always. Enjoy tomorrow. That was a tank factory in Ohio. Okay, that could be. I need to lighten this up just a little more. I want it to get different than the boot color. It's not even the same color, but they're starting to kind of be the same. So, there you go. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Lima, Ohio is the tank factory location. Ohio. Guaranteed that it had a railway went to it. Want to move those jokers out by rail when they're being made. Let me take a little potty break and be right back. Okay. Every once is a great while. Trace goes by. Yeah, I saw one going to Historicon one year near, what's the name of that town? It was in North Carolina. It's the first big town you come across in North Carolina in 95. I forget which one it is. Lumberton. It was near Lumberton. And yeah, there was a whole train full of M1s. Yeah, just stopped. Impressive job done. I guess it keeps them in shape, fabricating parts. Yeah, the last time I went to Historicon, we went up to try to find where all the tanks from Aberdeen Proving Ground went to. I never got a chance to go to Aberdeen. They had gotten moved by then. They were building a tank museum at Fort Lee, Virginia, which is also on the way up there. So we went to try to find it and find information on the internet, and it was kind of vague. So we went and tried to find it, and wasn't in functioning order yet, or you couldn't go see it, and it's inside of a functioning military base, so you got to go through security and stuff like that. But never got to see them. I looked recently to see if it was open yet. I don't think it still is. I guess it's just probably not a priority for them. But I understand they got moved out of the weather because they were just falling apart. But falling apart or otherwise, I would have liked to have gone to that. But never got a chance to go to Aberdeen Proving Ground. But see how big some vehicles are and how small others are. You got a Sherman tank here nearby. It's a lot bigger than I would have thought. It's actually a pretty decent sized vehicle. The Sherman one is, anyways. Very, very high profile. And that's probably why it made it more comfortable than other vehicles, I'd imagine. But the green they're painted in. I don't know if they were painted in the correct green to begin with, but Florida sun and green really don't mix. They look like almost this color. Just the way they've been faded, and they weren't painted like this, so but nonetheless, it's very, very, very chalky looking, where you can tell it's just taking a beating by being in the sun. And discussed closing the factory, but we're afraid to lose the skilled labor that builds them, so I think they're still operational, I think. Okay, let's give this guy a facial. Let's get our facial colors out here. I don't know why I've got my mouse that I'm playing with. The computer is not working. Habits. Hopefully next time we do one of these live things, the internet is back up. No biggie if it isn't. We're still getting some painting done. It's not at the high quality we'd gotten used to, but it is what it is. So this is more reliable. The mobile connection is more reliable, because if I lose you guys, if somehow I get a glitch, it'll still spin until I get a signal again. Within reason, within, I'd say 3 minutes, 4 minutes or whatever. All you need is like 30 seconds or something like that to get it cleared up. But can't do that over the computer. The OBS does not like that. It freaks out. This is another army of mustaches. About everybody in this army is going to have a mustache. They have to. It's on the figure. Yeah, these guys don't paint fast because they do have a lot of different things on them, which I guess is a good thing. Lots of little details here and there. Going to go one smaller on this brush, or one more precise on this brush, because smaller doesn't matter. It's the size of the tip. And it may be that one I was using. See how this one is. That one may be more precise. Maybe. Perhaps. It's not that one. You grab another candidate. Let's see if there's any of these. Nope. Jeez. Going blind over there. Thinking that's a small one. It's not anything but. This is a liner from hell. All right, we'll use this one. I don't want to open the new pack of things if I don't need to, because it's a totally different brand. Well, I actually think this one I was using is probably the best one. I think I jumped the gun too much. We're not there at that point yet. Probably not a big market on Civvy Street for tank experts. Yeah, probably not. Now we could start deviating in this direction. There we go. Bringing this guy to life. Not got to be afraid of making these guys look too pale. If anybody ought to be pale, it's these folks. They're undead. This is one of these things that I really don't mind taking my time doing the faces because it really has an impact on how the figure looks. And the camera really washes out the color. Is a lot more drab on here than in real life. Oh well, just one of those things. You know, that's the case. The first time I didn't realize it, I was like, man, they just don't look very good when I take pictures of them. And it's just, I'm not good at painting, taking pictures of things. I'm just not. They're pale because someone sucked the blood out of them. Who could it be? That's right. That's right. Okay, well, we've been on here 2 hours and 14 minutes. I'm going to call it a wrap. I have some other stuff to do today, but thanks for stopping by and putting up with a crappy 720p resolution. Hopefully next time we go on here, we'll have that resolved. But until next time, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you guys next time. Guys, have a good Sunday. Bye-bye.